Welcome again, tank buffs and film fans. It is me, the scriptwriter, narrated by me, Wood. By popular demand, I have been released from my cage to continue our series covering tank mockups in cinema. As for what's going to be included, same ground rules from the first episode apply today as well. 1. We will only be covering tanks. 2. At least some effort has to be put into their silhouette. 3. They cannot just be background props. And 4. Only props representing real historical vehicles are allowed. Last time we went over the Panzer I, II, III, and 38T. Today we pick it up where we left off with the Panzer IV, whose vast production numbers and long service record make it a popular choice for the inclusion on the silver screen. With its boxy hull and a long gun on the SPG variant, it is also a relatively simple conversion from other tracked vehicles. However, there is a problem. Same thing is true for the Tiger I. So how do we know which tank the on-screen, nondescript gray box on tracks is meant to represent? I've used my immense brain power to come to the solution for this problem. If it has those little triangles on the front of the turret, it's a Panzer IV. If the turret's rounded at the back, it's a Tiger. And if the tank doesn't have either of those features, we're just gonna eyeball it and wing it. Before we dive in, let's talk about something that can make your internet browsing as secure as an actual armored vehicle. Just like a tank's armor shields its squishy crew from the enemy fire, Private Internet Access, or PIA for short, is here to protect your digital life. PIA is a virtual private network, or VPN, that masks your IP address and encrypts your connection, keeping your online activity yours. Whenever you're connected to public Wi-Fi at a cafe, airport, or even when you're just using your personal computer at home, your personal information, passwords, browsing habits, and even your photos can be at risk. But with PIA's top-notch encryption, you get peace of mind knowing your data is safe from prying eyes. In addition, PIA lets you break through the barriers of region-locked content. Imagine accessing Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney Plus libraries from different countries, or catching up on shows and sports events that are otherwise unavailable in your region. We personally use PIA VPNs in our research, as it gives us access to foreign search results which come in very useful for reverse searching documents. With servers in 91 countries and every US state, PIA gives you the freedom to stream and browse without borders. PIA protects all your devices at once, whether it's your computer, smartphone, tablet, or even game console. One subscription covers them all, making it perfect for your entire household or office. With over 30 million downloads, PIA is renowned for its transparency and robust no-logs policy, confirmed by third-party audits and courtroom tests. They don't store your data, period. And the best part, trying PIA is completely risk-free. They offer a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support. Click the link in the description to get an exclusive 83% discount on this service. That's just $2.03 a month. And you also get 4 extra months of PIA VPN completely free. Protect your internet presence and stay safe. When covering Panzer IV mockups, the best place to start is the Mosfilm's arsenal. If you've watched any Soviet World War II movies or even some Polish and Yugoslavian ones, chances are you've seen these tanks in action. Notably, Mosfilm's Panzer IV conversions were featured in Battle of Moscow and the Liberation series, which were some of the most grandiose movies ever produced in the Soviet Union. Older ones are based on the T-34-85. In the Battle of Moscow, Aggression Part 1, they are even portrayed as Panzers, sent from France where they were supposed to participate in the Operation Sea Lion. Though it's clear some effort has been put into them, the end result is pretty meh, netting them a middling rating of 2.5 out of 5. Next, we have Mosfilm's Panzer IV SPGs, converted from Soviet T-44s. These aren't much better, largely due to the completely different proportions between the turret and chassis of the two tanks. Nevertheless, they had a good service record, most recently appearing in the Russian movie Frontier from 2018. They get a 2.5 as well. Over time, some of these tanks were also given a facelift. With improved details and added Schützen, a couple have been turned into Panzer IV Ausf-H tanks. These updated versions have been heavily used in recent films, and depending on the angle, they don't even look half bad. 3.75 out of 5. Another interesting portrayal of an Ausf-H is featured in the movie When Trumpets Fade. The mockup is based on a Soviet 2S1 Zvezdica self-propelled artillery system. This time, however, even the giant side skirts can't obscure the ridiculous shape of the thing. 1.5 out of 5 for the Limo Panzer. One Panzer IV Ausf H is featured in the second season of the Combat series, and no, it's not hiding behind this M41 Walker Bulldog. 0. Jesus Christ. Another Panzer IV with skirts, this time an Ausf F, shows up in the Russian comedy movie We Are From the Future 2. Given it's a custom-built vehicle, the proportions of this one are better than the average, but the tank on the whole still looks uneasy. 3 out of 5. The Panzer IV Ausf F from the Italian war comedy Everybody Go Home raises many questions, but also answers one. What if a killdozer had a turret? Well, now we know. Thank you, Italians. 1 out of 5. Couple short-barrel Panzer IVs also participate in the bizarre final battle of the 1944 movie Days of Glory. These pancake panzers first try to climb the barricade, like animals, before being defeated by a PTR-D and a Lewis gun tag team. Nevertheless, having functional mockups in 1944 has to account for something. In our case, that something is A3. The same movie features a German step cake based on the M3 Lee. Looks like nothing, and we are giving it nothing. 0. 1943, Crack That Tank training film. It's a movie, it counts. Also has an M3 Lee converted into a nothing panzer. A little more effort went into this one, so I'll give it a rating of 1. In the Rats of Tobruk, the Australians used modified Sentinels in place of German Panzers. Like the other props before them, these don't really look like anything, but their unique chassis makes them noteworthy. Aussies get a 1 out of 5 and a thank you for recycling badge. 2 more nondescript tanks show up in the movie Attack from 1956. The first one is based on an M3A3 Stuart and looks horrible. The second one is based on the Marmon Harrington CTL3 and also looks horrible. 0 out of 5 for both. Now back to tanks that actually resemble something, even if just barely. Soviet Azeri movie In Baku, The Wind Blows has T-55s dressed in cardboard playing the part of German Panzer IVs. Not a bad effort for the time and location, but the rating I'm giving them is 1.5 out of 5. Even stranger are the Panzer IV Ausf Gs based on the IS-2M tanks from the movie The Bullet Fears the Brave. Let these be your motivation to never skip leg day. 2 out of 5. More Ausf Gs wreak havoc in the movie The Living and the Dead. These are clearly based on the T-34 chassis, but appear different from the ones we previously covered at the start. They too get a 2. The Czechoslovakian movie Marathon featured a real Panzer IV, as well as a number of fake ones. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to tell which is which, so I couldn't rate them. Another real Panzer IV shows up in Burnt by the Sun 2, surrounded by Mosfilm's replicas. This one is worth bringing up because it's an Ausf G disguised as an Ausf F. The muzzle brake was removed, and a long barrel was locked in its recoiled position to emulate the stubby 75mm. I'm not entirely sure how to rate it, but let's go with a 4.75 out of 5. On the flip side, we have a completely fake wooden mock-up built for the movie Valkyrie from 2008. Given it's just a stationary prop, it raises the question of why they couldn't make it more true to life. 2 out of 5. The movie They Went to the East details the fun work and travel experience of being part of an Italian expeditionary corps in Russia. It also features these really square mock-ups representing presumably Panzer IV tanks, though it's hard to tell because of the poor nature of their construction. 1 out of 5. In the Polish movie The Hours of Hope, we're treated to a tank that might have been a decent Panther if it weren't for its fake flat frontal armor and questionable turret design. This tank decides to go on a roadkill rampage before being taken down by an unlit Molotov. 1 out of 5. Similar conversions show up in a Soviet movie Izhora Battalion, except these are even worse. You know you've made some terrible mock-ups when they are literally falling apart on set. 0.5 out of 5. In a Soviet movie Fortress on Wheels, the crew of an armored train bravely machine-gunned these Panzer III/IV hybrids that seem to be based on the Su-76. 3 out of 5. Those same tanks show up a bit later in the movie On Kiev Direction, joined by a T-34 with a square head. 0. One Soviet chassis that saw a surprising amount of conversions into German mock-up Panzers was the PT-76 amphibious light tank. Different ones show up in Thinking About Kopfpack, Film 3, Long Miles of War, and Long Road in the Dunes from 1980. Unfortunately, all are terrible and get a collective rating of 1. You might expect the large road wheels and sloped frontal armor of Soviet tanks to make them ideal candidates for conversion to German Panthers. In reality, such conversions are rare, and good ones are even more so. The Polish movie Warsaw 44 fields the best Panther mockup based on a T-55. Seriously, this thing looks amazing. If it weren't for the running gear, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was the real deal. I give it the top rating, 5 out of 5. Less convincing Panthers can be seen in the Russian 2018 blockbuster T-34. These are still alright, but more of a T-55 base shines through in the Viz mod. The front is pretty bad, but from the side and at a distance, they're still impressive in their own right, 4 out of 5. Another T-55 conversion shows up in Volodka's Life from 1984 and The Battalion's Request Fire from 1985. While not the worst job, it's not the best one either, warranting a middle-of-the-road rating of 2.5. The Soviet movie The Feet of Farhad features Panther mockups based on the T-44 tank. Thanks to its comparatively narrow turret, the T-44 lends itself better to cheap conversions than the wider T-55. Unfortunately, the movie doesn't showcase it much as the tank only appears in a few scenes. Because of the slightly better turrets, these get a 3. One of the more famous Panther conversions was the one done by the French on their Chaffee light tank. The end result is quite pleasing to the eye, but not the most convincing Panther, largely because the turret gives the game away. Panzerkampfwagen Chaffee earns a solid 3 as well. Even more famous are the Leopard 1 based Panthers from the cult classic A Bridge Too Far. More famous doesn't mean better though, as these tanks suffer from many of the same issues as cheap T-55 conversions, including bad proportions and general lack of detail. 2 out of 5 for this one. Going back to the Italian movie Everybody Go Home, we have these Panther mockups that absolutely don't look like they were meant to be mobile, but somehow are. Unfortunately, when the spotlight is on them, their plywood construction doesn't hold up. 2.5 out of 5. The Soviet movie Destiny of a Man from 1958 gives us a glimpse of some T-34-85s encased in sheet metal. 1 out of 5. But a year later, an actual attempt to convert them appears in the movie The Sun Shines for Everyone. The turrets and gun mantlets of these tanks look particularly good, even if oversized compared to the rest of the body. 2.5 out of 5. A similar conversion can be seen in the Polish TV series 4 Tankers and a Dog, but the details are very much hit or miss. Seriously, what are those 2 hatches? 2 out of 5. The movie Span of Land from 1964 features these T-44s that look more like those fake Italian tanks from World of Tanks rather than anything German. 1.5 out of 5. But even those look photorealistic compared to the god-awful Panther from the 1966 comedy What Did You Do in the War, Daddy? Which seems to be based on the M4 EZ-8? 0. IS-2s covered in cardboard, sheet metal, and rubber show up in multiple Polish and Soviet war movies, such as the 1969 Direction Berlin, documenting how the Polish army took the German capital all by itself, and the Soviet Liberation series. Unfortunately, they make for poor Panthers, and it shows. 0 again. The Russian miniseries The Axe features wooden Panther mockups playing the part of wooden Panther tank mockups, which I thought was interesting enough to include. Well, these mockups do indeed look like mockups, can't argue with that. 5 out of 5. Our final Panther for the day is actually a T-55 based Jagdpanther, prominently featured in the 2001 series Band of Brothers. Besides being a tad too wide, it's an excellent conversion, worthy of a top rating as well. When the Liberation film series first premiered in 1970, the opening shot of a tank moving towards the camera made even war veterans shiver. At the time, many mistook the on-screen T-44 base conversion for a genuine Tiger. Today, with the power of the internet and the common appearance of Tiger tanks in video games and documentaries, these Mosfilm replicas don't hold up nearly as well. For their adequate amount of details and long service record, however, they'll still get a weak 4 out of 5. Speaking of not holding up, the 1983 movie Crew of the Combat Vehicle fields these monstrosities, which were apparently decorated by the average War Thunder player. 0 out of 5. Slightly less awful, but still very much awful, is the MTLB-based Tiger that shows up in the first We Are From the Future movie, earning it a rating of 1 out of 5. The 2004 movie Downfall features a border guard Tiger mockup, but it's never shown from the side, making it very hard for me to decipher what it's based on. It's equally possible that this is just a stationary prop built from scratch. Besides the turret roof, the shape and proportions of the tank seem fine, but there is little else to comment on. 2 out of 5. Another stationary prop appears in the East German movie The Adventures of Werner Holt. This one is more detailed, but unfortunately those details often appear in the wrong places. 3 out of 5. One prop that could have been excellent on screen was the Tiger I replica built for the movie The White Tiger. Unfortunately, it wasn't finished in time, and the production crew had to settle for an IS-2 in drag. The replica was eventually finished, but was only used as a background prop for the 2013 series Snipers Love Under the Gun. Nevertheless, it is a 5 out of 5. As for the IS-2, it's a 3. They could have made it into a decent Porsche Tiger though. Opportunity wasted. A couple of T-44 conversions of varying quality show up in the 1967 movie Wild Honey. 2 out of 5. But by far the most common chassis for conversion into Tigers is the T-34-85. Such conversions famously show up in the movies Battle of Narrated and Kelly's Heroes, Saving Private Ryan, and Band of Brothers. 3.5 rating for all of these. Some of the less famous T-34 conversions appear in the Operation Daybreak, 2.5 out of 5. To the Last Drop of Blood, 2.5 as well. 4 Tankers and a Dog, 2 out of 5. Red Rose of Normandy, 3 out of 5. Night of the Generals, 2.5 out of 5. And Columbovie, 1.5. This movie also features an Su-76, modified to look like a Marder III Ausf M. They are really not selling us on it though, 1.5 as well. Another such conversion appears in the Polish series More Than Life at Stake, but it's equally crude. I missed these two last time, so we are going over them now. More Than Life at Stake also features one of the more unique T-34 to Tiger tank conversions. The end product doesn't actually resemble a Tiger tank at all, but it looks pretty cool and gets a bonus for it. 3 out of 5. The movie Ballad of a Soldier from 1959 has this strange Tiger mockup that spends an equally strange amount of time trying to run over a Red Army man. Like, dude, just move to the side, stop running in a straight line. Frustrating to watch, 2 out of 5. Beyond Valkyrie, Dawn of the Fourth Reich features a T-34 based Tiger with a panoramic windshield. With camo nets covering it up, it doesn't look half bad though. 2.5 out of 5. The same can't be said for the Tiger in the joint Soviet-Yugoslav movie, The Only Road. That one looks awful from every angle. 1/2 of a point. Our last T-34 based Tigers are the ones to show up in the Soviet movie The Unforgettable. Pretty average job compared to the rest. Dimensions and proportions are okay, but the details are lacking. They didn't even bother to fit this one with a stick to serve as the Hall MG. 2 out of 5. Another chassis suitable for conversions into Tiger replicas is the T-55, as well as the VT-55 Armored Recovery Vehicle and BLG-67 Bridge Layer, which are based on it. One such Tiger replica appears in the Hungarian movie Argo 2. I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but the guys on the screen seem to be having a lot of fun. Their tank looks pretty good as well, with the suspension and frontal plate being the weak points of the design. Another very similar yet different Tiger shows up in the movie Dead Snow 2 and is the centerpiece of the action during the final battle between the Soviet and Nazi zombies. Fun movie to watch with a really good replica to go along with it, 4.5 out of 5. The Polish movie To the Last Drop of Blood is the only one to feature a Ferdinand. When engulfed in smoke and fire, it looks quite convincing, ignoring the weird machine gun. Actually, looking at it out in the open, it's a 2. Nice try though. Despite being the German top dog tank, I haven't found any movies that portray the Tiger II except the 1965 Battle of the Bulge, but their paint job patents don't qualify for our list. Instead, the closest we get is the Soviet 1963 movie The Third Rocket, which has these T-44 tanks with sloped armor and round gun shields that resemble King Tigers quite a bit. Unfortunately, the tanks in the movie just play the part of Panzer IVs or other nondescript German tanks, so this is a category that will have to remain empty. We'll round up this episode with a couple of odd self-propelled guns that didn't quite fit anywhere else. First up, the 1969 movie Battle of Britain features a modified M37 HMC. Given how the movie is set in the early 1940s, this tank most closely resembles a Panzerjäger 1, which is funny because it looks nothing like a Panzerjäger 1 at all. 0 out of 5. Another questionable conversion, this time of the M7 Priest, shows up in the movie What Did You Do in the War, Daddy? The Italians are really on a roll today. 0 once more. Our final entry is a Panzer IV looking SPG from the 1972 Soviet movie Hot Snow. Given its strange layout for an SPG and its similarity to the Panzer IV, maybe it's supposed to represent the rare Panzer SFL-4B. If so, it's a 2. And that concludes our list for today. We thank Private Internet Access for sponsoring today's episode. Check out the link in the description for an exclusive discount on their service, including 4 extra months of PIA VPN completely free. Which entry was your favorite? Was I too harsh or too soft on the Italians? Let us know in the comments below. As always, subscribe if you haven't yet, so that you remain in the loop when new episodes come out. Additionally, if there is an obscure tank replica you'd like to see featured on a future list, feel free to share your finds. We'll leave you with the Panzer from the Rat Patrol. And until next time, keep us in your sights.